Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to the series on the 1985 Cabernet Red Wagon. In the last video, you saw me redo all the rear suspension. Well, today we're going to move back to the front of the car and I'm going to knock out 3 items. I want to install new engine mounts, new flexible transmission cooler hoses, and completely redo the air conditioner system. New compressor, new receiver dryer, new switches, and then recharge the system. So let's go ahead and get started. And if you remember back at the beginning of the video series, all of the parts I had on this table, we only have a few left to install. A couple back there. There's some door actuators, transmission filter and gasket, center caps, but here's what we're doing today. Now, I just ordered these from the Classic Center. These are genuine Mercedes, there's the part number, engine mounts. Here's the flexible transmission cooler hoses, and here are the AC components. I got a high pressure switch, temp switch, new receiver dryer, and here's our new AC compressor with new seals. So let's go ahead and start with the easy one, the flexible transmission lines, then we'll go to the engine mounts, and at the end of the video, that's going to be the longest part. We'll redo the entire AC system. All right, guys, here is the flexible transmission cooler hose. You can see here's the transmission line with the nice zinc plating still on there that goes back to the transmission. That's the hard line. The flexible line goes back up into the radiator. You have one here, and there's one on the other side, a send and a return. Now, these are just rubber hoses. But when these things break, you just dump all your transmission fluid out of here and then you can't drive. Now, the reason they break is because if you have a belt snap or something like that, something flies up off the road. But usually if it's a belt, when a belt breaks, it might come down and slap this hose and it'll slice it right in half. That's happened to me before. So the new ones that I like to install, they're like the upgraded version, I guess. They're covered in a steel coil, and that protects that from happening. It protects these hoses. So we're going to get this old original one out, put this 2 of these back in. Now, to remove these, it's pretty easy. First, you want to take a 17 millimeter and you want to hold your hard line still so you don't twist it. And then we're going to put a 19 millimeter on our fitting here, and we'll just crack it loose. These aren't under an extreme amount of tension. And then you want to go up here to the radiator, and we want to get that one loose. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and unscrew these. Now, when you take them off, you're going to lose, I don't know, maybe like a shot glass worth of transmission fluid. It's not enough to matter. However, we're going to do a transmission fluid and filter change. We're going to flush it out anyway. But if you're doing this at home, don't worry about the fluid you lose here. It's not enough to make a difference. So let me get these out. I'm going to put the other one up in here. All right, there we go. Little fluid comes out. We're going to pop it off from the other side here. All right, then we're going to pop this one back on. Get that one threaded back on there. And let's get this one up here. And you notice these things are, it's a twisty hose and like a weird, why is the hose like that, right? Well, when your engine vibrates or rocks, something's got to flex here. It can't be a hard line because the engine is connected to the chassis, but your radiator is connected up here to the body. So when the engine vibrates and rocks, you want some flexibility in this hose here. That's why they're like that. And just be careful you don't cross thread anything. But see how easy that was, guys? Very, very simple. That's why I encourage everyone to just kind of knock this out on your car. It's easy to do. All right, there we go. That side's done. Let me knock out the other side. And there you go. That's how much fluid we lost. You can see, it's not enough to make a difference. And there's that's an old original hose. There we go. That's why we replace them, because we have this steel braid that protects this hose. All right, let me get the other side done. And there we go. There's the other side. Fresh new line in there. And there you go. There's the fluid from the other side. So not enough to make a difference. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the engine mounts. All right, right underneath our beautiful new suspension here, we can see, there we go. On the passenger side, there's our engine mount bolt. And right over here on the driver's side, we have another one right there. So we want to go ahead and get those out. Now, to do that, we are going to need that guy. Let's see, what size is this? H10. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. It wasn't the H10. It's the H8. There we go. H8. Hey, Jefferson, what are you doing? You want to take some engine mounts out? All right. Let's see if this one will go in there. Yeah, there we go. That one fits in there. Now, to get that out, we're just going to bump it with our impact. All right, that's about the best view I can get you guys. And we'll just put this up in here. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. That thing looks brand new. All right, let's get it on this other side. Wow, this bolt looks brand new too. I bet you they've changed these long ago and maybe used some new bolts. I mean, geez, look at that. That looks like a brand new zinc plated bolt in there. I don't know. I mean, it is a California car, and these California cars are pretty amazing like that. All right, here's where it gets a little tricky, guys. So you can see on an engine mount, you have a hole here and here. And what those are little holes that hold these little Allen. Let's see, here it is right here. Actually, I think it's this one. That is a small Allen. So the way I get those out is this setup right here. It is a small, very thin 1/4-inch wrench with a flexible head on it. And let me see if I can demonstrate. Now, before we disconnect those mounts with this, what we have to do is lift up the engine so we can get access in that area. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so a couple of things I want to do before I lift up the engine to get rid of those old engine mounts. We want to disconnect our throttle linkage right here. That way it's not, it's not stressed or flexed when we lift the motor up. And I'll also just like to undo the clips on the radiator shroud up here. There we go. And keep in mind, we're sending all this off to be re-zinc plated anyway. There we go. And that way the fan has a little room to come up and the shroud will kind of lift up with the fan. All right, I'll go ahead and disconnect that and then we'll go back under the car. Okay, you can see I've just disconnected our main throttle linkage here from the firewall. That way when we lift the engine, it doesn't stress and put that bushing right there. See, that bushing is what turns with your throttle linkage when you press your pedal, and we don't want to bend that or stress that. All right, let's go ahead and jack the motor up. Okay, so I have a telescoping jack. You can pick these up for cheap, guys, like Summit Racing or whatever. And I've got a board under the oil pan. So all we want to do is lift up the engine. Now, I'll show you. If you watch right here, this arm is actually going to lift off the engine mount. Now, totally forgot. First thing we want to do is disconnect our engine shock dampers. There's one there, and there is one right here. We just want to take the 10 millimeter nut off the end of both of those. Then we can lift the engine. I know it's a little difficult to see, guys, but now if we're lucky, we can shock it with an impact and get that little nut off. Otherwise, let me turn my steering out of the way a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to have to put a wrench up here on the shaft. There's a flat spot and you can hold it still. Let's see if we can get this off of here though. Okay, yeah, see, it's just spinning. So I need to hold it right there. Let me show you how I do that. So I just take some vice grips and put up there. That's easier for me to do. However, there is a little flat spot on there that you can get a small wrench on, and you can hold the shock still. But the vice grips work absolutely fine. All right, we'll put those there like that. Now I should be able to zip that off. There we go. And our nut just came right off of there. Now we'll go do the other side. And here, guys, on this side, I'll show you the wrench method. So there's a little flat on the shaft of the shock, and you can actually go up here with a wrench. There you go. It's on there. And then you just hold it still. There we go. Okay, now we can take our little bushings off of here. There we go. And these are outstanding condition. They don't need to be replaced at all. And we'll take the one off the front. Let's see. Oh, there it is right there. Take that one off. Got that out. Now, for example, there is our engine mount arm, and that arm is up on top of that engine mount. So now watch as I lift this engine. You see it moving around up there? It's lifting up. All right, let's see. Not quite high enough yet. And let's see over here. So we got to get these plates off. This one's not high enough over here yet either. So we just need to keep lifting, and we'll get our radiator shroud. Okay, that's loose. Remember, we loosened it up top. And let's keep lifting here. All right, there we go. That little plate is loose up there now. That's the protective plate that covers the engine mount. There we go. I'll remember it goes in that direction with the curved up part near the back. See if I can get the other side off. Okay. I don't think I can get this side quite yet. Let's see. Oh, we're gonna have to go up a little higher. Okay, it's looking good. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Boom. All right. Now, over here, guys, you can see the arm is actually not touching that engine mount anymore. So now we need to get, see that little bump on the side of the engine mount? There is a Allen bolt down in there on both sides over here and behind here. There's one too. That's that little bump you're seeing. It's in the engine like that, and you're seeing this little bump. And there's an Allen we got to get down in there. So what we do, I'll demonstrate this or not, guys. But see, I can get my little, I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and do this, but we get this up in here, and we can get it right down in there. Anyway, you get the idea, and then I can get those little bolts out. So let me remove them, and that will disconnect the engine mount from the frame. I'll be right back. All right, see if I can record at least some of it for you. I've got this one over here started, and I just want to show it to you when it comes out so you know exactly what we're doing here. Okay, there she is. Just dropped it right there. Okay, guys, there's two of those, one on each side, and there's two per engine mount. So let me get all of these out. Okay, guys, I've gotten both out on this side. And watch this. There's the engine mount. And here we go. We can now pull this guy out of here. All right, let's show you why we're replacing these. Now, these aren't horrible. I've seen worse. These are not torn all the way across here. You can see a split is starting right here. But let's compare it next to the new engine mount. There we go. See how much taller and see how compressed down that is? Now, keep in mind, guys, this was not torn. The rubber wasn't torn, and it was still working. So you could have gotten, some more mileage out of that. But you clearly see the difference. And when we put in a brand new engine mount, it's going to get the engine back up about an inch. And these are going to be a little stiffer and take out a little vibration. And we already have the engine lifted up, so it's pretty much, now I like to wipe off the surface a little bit. All right, there we go. And There we go. Now, that is like all the way up, you know, almost touching that arm. We might have to lift the engine a little bit more to get that plate back underneath here. But now the tricky part is I have to get those little bolts back in here on this side and that side. Also get the protective plate back on. And then we need to make sure everything's lined up. You can see, yeah, you guys can see the engine mount right there. So the hole, there we go. See the hole up in there? We got to get it lined up before we bolt everything down. So, a little tricky. If you're doing it on jack stands, it's kind of a pain in the ass. If you have a lift, it makes it a lot easier. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and knock out the other side here and tighten that one back down and lower the engine. And I'll show you the new mounts installed when I'm done. Also, guys, before I put the little engine mount bolts back in, same for the big one, I like to put just a little anti-seize on the tip of them, and that will prevent them from ever getting stuck in there. They came out really easy because this is a West Coast car, no corrosion, but that'll ensure that if any corrosion ever happens down there, these will easily come out. All right, just wanted to show you the driver's side. Not horrible condition. Yeah, the rubber's actually not torn anywhere. It's just pretty flattened out. There you go. Just show you how much flatter it is. See the difference? All right, anyway, let me get this one back up in there. Okay, we have our new driver's side and passenger side engine mounts. Now we just need to lower the engine. Sorry for the bad camera angles. And put our bolts back in there. So we're just going to lower it down. And you want to make sure your shocks correctly go back through the holes here. There we go. Let me check the one over here. Good, that one's going through there. And make sure our plate is lined up there. There we go. Let's lower those arms back down. All right, now is the tricky part. We got to get the bolts back through there. And you can see how that hole up there is. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. Okay. Yep, it's pretty good. It's lined up. That's good. Sometimes they're not lined up. And when they're not lined up, guys, you got to start shaking the engine around and get everything lined up. And it's a pain in the butt. But let's go ahead. We'll put a little anti-seize. Wow, look how nice those are. It's like they never got wet ever. Anyway, let's put a little anti-seize on these and get these back up in the car. And the reason I put anti-seize on these are the most important ones because your engine mount arms are aluminum and these are steel bolts. So those are dissimilar metals. And, you know, being a California car, that's like the best climate in the country. So there's zero corrosion on these. But we put a little anti-seize because who knows where the car will be next. And, you know, in 30 years, when those are pulled out again, you want to make sure there's no corrosion. And that anti-seize will take care of that. All right, guys, this is the fun part. I don't know how long this is going to take me to get these back in here. Now, you always start them by hand. Never start these with an impact or a wrench, because if you cross thread your arms, your mounting arms, you have a bad situation going on. Okay, so this is going to take me a few minutes to get this threaded. I'll be back in a second. All right, mission accomplished. Brand new, genuine Mercedes motor mounts installed. That is a beautiful thing. There you go. Got one. Let's see if we can see it from back here. There we go. You can see our sticker. I left the stickers on there for you. There you go. Nice. All right, so the next thing we want to do is change out the AC compressor. I can see this is an old Harrison 350. I don't know. It might still work. It doesn't look all beat up and doesn't look like it's leaking too bad, but you know, that's probably 20 years old. So we're going to go ahead and remove it. Now, you see one bolt goes through here. That's a 13 millimeter. It goes to a little retaining bracket or like a helper bracket for your AC manifold. And let's see, I think that's the high side and low side manifold connect right into the back. And I think that's a 15 millimeter to disconnect that. But to get the compressor out, a little tricky. So you have a 19 millimeter there. You have a 19 millimeter here. And then you guys probably can't see it. I'm touching it right there. There's another 19 millimeter. And the way you get access to that one up there, you have to have a wrench with a 19 millimeter socket, but you need to swivel the head like that so you can get around there. So let's go ahead and get that compressor out. All right, now before we try to remove the compressor, if we look right down here, there you go. You see that stud? That's a 10 millimeter nut right on that stud. Now, that is your tensioning rod for the AC compressor belt. So first we need to undo that nut. You know, I'll put the impact on it and spin it for like 2 seconds. I usually count 1 1,000, 2 1,000. And that'll relieve the tension. But then when I'm putting it back on, I know to count 2 seconds, and that'll put the tension back to right where it was. All right, I realize you guys can't see down there, but you have to get a pretty long extension. And we're going to put it down there. It's a 10 millimeter. All right, there we go. All right, first thing we want to do is remove this. It's a 15 millimeter nut that holds the AC manifold in place to the back of the compressor, and that's where your 2 seals go. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. And you can only use a box end wrench to get in there because there's no room for anything else. All right, that's almost out. Now I want to get a 13 millimeter wrench and remove this retaining bracket right here. Now I'm going to hold the other side still right there. All right, get that out of here. Now you'll notice there is a nut and a washer on each side. So that's how we'll put it back in. Got a washer on that side and then a nut and a washer on this side. That bolt looks new. All the bolts on this car look new. Now you can see some of that green AC dye leaking out now that we've cracked the seal on the back of the compressor. All right, we've got that nut out of there. So our manifold is now disconnected. Now let's go ahead and loosen the compressor bolts. So the easy one is this one right here. Now, I'm going to show you something that's very important, okay? We have there's a big spacer right here. Then there's a washer right there. And then on the other side of the mounting bracket, see right there? Let's see. Well, you can see it right there. I'm touching with my finger. That is another spacer. So it's spacer, mounting bracket, washer, and then real big spacer. You have to put those back in that order. Now up here, remember that adjustment nut that we undid? That's attached right here. That little thin looking spacer, that's actually the adjustment rod. Now, there's another spacer right there. So that spacer and that spacer, you have to put them back or your compressor will not install correctly. And guys, that's just that green dye people put in AC systems to make sure if there's ever a leak, you can see where it's coming from. All right, let's go ahead and get this one out right here. There we go. See how my wrench, see how it's a swivel wrench? That's very important to have this when you're doing these AC compressors. All right, I can probably do that by hand now. Okay, there we go. There's that big long one. See if I can make the spacer fall out. Not yet. I need to loosen some of the other ones first. Next one we're going to go for is the one way up here. You guys can't see it. It's behind there. There we go. See how my wrench is angled? That's how I can reach it. Now we don't have to remove this one. We just have to disconnect it from the compressor. We can leave it up there in the mounting bracket. Okay. Now the next one is, you got the one up top. Let's get this one over here. There we go. That one's kind of tricky to get to. Okay, there we go. And here's where I have to start being careful, because once they're all done, the compressor will fall out. And there we go, that compressor. Now, here's where we can see our spacers fall out. Oh, there goes one. Okay, here we go. This was the spacer on the bottom. And there's also a spacer up here that'll fall out too. So we need to make sure we save those. Oh, come on. Oh, so close. This is hard work, you guys. God, how long is this bolt? There we go. All right. All right, let's get the belt off now. There we go. And we can get our old compressor out of here. There we go. Okay, what I like to do when I get the compressors out is look. Oh yeah, see how clean that is? See how clean it is in there? And this one was, it was charged and had no leaks. And I can see when the compressors fail, you get a bunch of like debris and metal shavings up in here. And we can see that there's none of that in there, so that one's good condition. And if we go over here, we can see this nasty old compressor. I mean, it was still hanging in there, but you can see, yeah, it's been leaking around the edge, and that's the old school one. We have the old school seals in here. But there is our nice new compressor with our new seals. So let's go ahead and get this guy back in the car. Okay, so first thing we want to do with this new compressor, we want to open it up and drain all the oil out, because they come pre-filled with oil. And you want to get all that oil out, because if you try to install it with the oil in there, it will spill all over you. So here's our new screw. That's the screw or bolt that we took off to release the manifold. So we're going to use that when we reinstall it. Let's get our protective cap off here. Dang, that one's on there pretty good. Okay, now we want to drain out the oil, but we want to measure it and put back in the same amount of oil that we take out. And this is just an old paint cup I have here in the shop, but it has markings so we can measure it. Okay, there we go. And usually about 2 ounces comes out of here. Okay, that's about all that's going to come out. And let's see how much we have. So if we get down here, there's the 4 ounce mark. Not sure if you guys can see that. Just about 2.5, 3 ounces. See, there's 4. I don't know if you guys can see. There's the 2 ounce mark. And it goes up just past that. So it's about 2.5 ounces, which is the same every time I do this. So we'll throw that away, but we'll put back in, we're going to put in about 2.5 ounces when we put it back in the vehicle. Okay, the instructions that come with the Molly Bear compressors specifically say to rotate the compressor about 10 times. And I have this special tool here that plugs in to the front of the compressor. And they want you to rotate it. And they want you to feel for how much torque or how much tension is required. It's about 10 or 15 pounds is what you're looking for. And this one feels really good. Yeah, this one is rotating excellent. So they say to do this about 10 times before reinstalling on the car. Now another thing I do is inspect the belt. And I can see that this belt has been changed. That's not the original belt, and it is excellent condition. So I don't need to put another belt on here. This one has recently been put on here. And I'm guessing it's when they serviced the AC before and converted it to 134, they probably changed that belt too. So anyway, let's go ahead and lift up our compressor. All right, guys, this is where you're going to see some cussing. This is kind of tricky. So first we're going to get it up in here. We got to get our belt back over it first. All right, there we go. Now, I'm going to go for this top bolt right here. If we can just get one in there, it's going to hold. Oh, there went my spacer. See, I needed that spacer. So let me go get that. All right, I just went and cleaned this up in the parts washer, but remember, this was the bolt, the really big spacer, then the washer that goes there, then this goes through, and there's another spacer that goes here on this side. We got to get this all back up in there. So to do that, we're going to come down here. Okay, now I got to kind of get that spacer up there. All right, next thing we want to do before we tighten everything down, we want to get our seals in here. Let me show you the seals. Here's our new seals, and guys, you want to use the green seal and the gold seal. It's going to be very tempting to use one of these red ones. You're going to think that's the right one. You never, under any circumstance, use these. We're going to throw those away. Never put those on your car. So I'm going to go ahead, get a little compressor oil here. We'll just lubricate up our seals a little bit. And then we'll go put these back on there. All right. All right, guys. The green seal goes over here on this side. Now, the green seal is easy because there's like a little bevel that it can go over. And it can actually fit right there. The gold one is tricky. You're going to drop it 5 or 10 times before you get it in there. Now, what I like to try to do is start the bolt in the middle. Try to at least get that started. There we go. Come on. Okay, I got that threaded. We got our green seal. And then we got to get our gold seal right up in here. Now, there's nothing to hold this in there except for the clamping force. So, see, that's going to fall out as soon as I let go. So I got to slowly start tightening these things down, and then that'll hold that seal in there. I'm going to try to tighten this one up here. All right, there we go. Okay, good. Okay, I think I've got it screwed down enough to hold the seals in there. Then we're going to tighten everything else, all the compressor bolts back up, and then we'll crank this down to hold our seals in place. And guys, that's how you install a compressor. All right, let me tighten everything back up. I'll be back when I'm done. All right, guys, we're on the home stretch. I've got all the bolts tightened down. My belt tension is exactly where I want it. I've got the retaining bracket through here. Now we're just gonna do one final snug up on this compressor manifold where it pushes against the seals. You want to get this nice and tight so it doesn't leak. All right, guys, there we go. Brand new, beautiful compressor. Okay, with video editing, I probably just made that look easy, but putting in a compressor can be a pain in the butt. Anyway, next thing we need to do is the receiver dryer and the switches. So anytime you change the compressor, guys, you open up the system and expose it to air. And this has material inside of it that absorbs moisture, because you don't want any moisture in your AC system. So, and there's our low pressure switch and temperature switch. So let's go ahead and remove the old one. I'll show you how to do that. This is the passenger side headlight, and right behind that headlight, there's the receiver dryer. See those old style switches on there? So we want to get that out. Now, the easiest way to do that is just remove the headlight assembly, and then it's just wide open, and we can access everything from right behind the headlight. Now, I'm also I think I'll remove this air filter housing, because remember, I want to refinish the lid. It's got some little rusty surface spots on it. I want to sand that down and refinish it and make that, good to go for the next 30 years. I think I might want to remove this so it'll make it easier to access here. I don't know. Let me see how it goes. So first we're going to start by just removing the headlight bezel, and there's some little twist off caps on the back. I'll show you. I'm undoing one right now. There's 3 of them, and you just twist these off, and then this headlight bezel will come off. Yeah, see, they're like this. There's 3 of those back there. So let me go ahead and get these off. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I've got all those off, and this will just slide out of here. There we go, like that. And now we want to pop out the side marker. There's also a little twisty thing for that one. We'll just spin that off, and then this will just slide right out. Beautiful, and we can unplug that. There we go. I'm also gonna unplug the connector for the headlight because we're gonna remove the headlight. There we go. All right, now the headlight, there's a bolt here, there's one down there, and there's 2 right here on the side. All right, let's take this guy out here. And I know you guys can't see it, but there's one right there. And right over here on the side, a little dusty in there, there's one here. And there's one here. Now I'm gonna have to hold the headlight when I get this one out. Let's see. There we go. And now this headlight can come right out of here. Boom. All right, so there we go. There is our receiver dryer, our switches. So we can just start by unplugging the switches. Got one there, got one there. Now I immediately know that this has been changed before. And I do see the R134 conversion sticker here. I don't know if you guys can make that out. It says July of 2022. And it says Eureka, California. So Eureka, that's where the original owner, Gary, lived, who owned the Mercedes dealership. So, and it says here the lubrication is ester oil, and that's good. I'm also going to use ester oil. And right here, now I know it's been out before because, see, here's the factory clip. And normally this harness right here goes through that little factory zip tie, and I can see it's not in there. And guys often remove it from there when they install new receiver dryers. Anyway, I'm getting into a bunch of nonsense you guys don't care about. But what we need to do, we need to crack, this goes to the expansion valve under the dash, that one and that one. I think these are 19 millimeter. And then there's a little 8 millimeter sheet metal bolt there and right down there. And we can get this receiver dryer out of here. Let's see, I think I might be able to get in here. Let's try it. Yeah, okay, let's see. There we go, we got that one. Ah, there we go. All right. Now let me get the 8 millimeter. We'll take this receiver dryer out. I went ahead and removed the air filter housing assembly because I was sick of it being in my way. You can see it connects to the turbo here, and it was sitting right here. Pretty easy to remove that. Now I can get better access to get in here and remove this guy. So that's an 8 millimeter there. We're going to take this guy out. And these are just little sheet metal screws. There we go. There's that one. And the other one, kind of tricky to get to. It's buried up underneath all these cables. And there we go. And that's how you get the old receiver dryer out of there. Oh, I need to unplug these 2 connectors right here. Forgot about that. There we go. All right, mission accomplished. Now, one thing I want to point out, we can see behind this little black seal. See that little seal? We want to replace the seals back here also. I think the other seal that was on that one is still stuck on the receiver dryer. Okay, there's one seal. Let's see. Yeah, there's the other one right there. It just was stuck on here. So those are the 2 black seals. We're going to replace them with more modern, updated green seals. But there's the old receiver dryer. You can see there's this switch here. And we have, this is actually an upgraded switch. This is a, let's see, I think this is a pressure switch, and this is from the 124 chassis. But what this does, it activates the cooling fan in the front of the car when you get to a certain pressure. The AC gets to a certain pressure. And this from the 124 chassis lets it kick on a little sooner and cool your AC better. Cool your condenser, your air conditioner system with the outside air. Okay, we're going to throw this away. And now we need to prep this guy. So let's go ahead and get our caps off of here and get our new sensors plugged in. And these are just little 14 millimeter caps here. Take that one off. And we're good. Okay, now our new sensors already come with the correct O-rings on them. You can see we have a little green one there. So I just like to get a little of the compressor oil. Just rub it right around there. There we go. Then we're going to screw that guy right in here. We'll tighten it up in a second. All right, let's lubricate this one. Right there, get a little oil around there. All right, let's screw this one in here. Okay, there we go. Now let's get our caps off and go put this back in the car. First, also, before I take these caps off, let me get our O-rings out and let's find the correct size replacement O-rings. All right, here's my O-ring bag. Let's go ahead and dump that out here. And I think that's one there. No, okay, after digging around for 5 minutes, I found 2 O-rings that I want to use. Here they are right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a little oil on them from the compressor. And there we go. Let's go put these back on our lines. All right, those O-rings slip right over the end of these fittings here. There we go. And then these install back into the receiver dryer. There's our, see our new green seals. And let's get this receiver dryer back in here. Okay, let's see. This is gonna go like that. And we'll slip it down. All right, I'll tighten those up in a minute. First, I need to put the sheet metal screws back in here to hold it still before I tighten it. You don't have to go crazy tight, guys. The O-rings do all the sealing. All right, there we go. There we go. Now we just plug everything back in. These I want to run back through the original little factory, there we go, the factory zip tie. There we go, like that. And this is going to zoom in so you guys can see, but see they put a shield on this one, but you don't need 2 shields and it won't fit. So you just slice that. There you go, like that. Then you can kind of peel that back like so. And then get it plugged in. There we go. And we just let it lay down. All right, guys, boom, mission accomplished. We have the new switches, new receiver dryer. Now it's time to recharge this AC system. And guys, I know that no one's ever gonna see behind here, but I just wanna clean it up a little bit. I mean, it's obviously gonna be hidden by the light, but I'm just kind of OCD like that. Anyway, let me get this cleaned up and I'll be back in a second once I reinstall the headlight. All right, there we go. We got all that back together and everything reinstalled. Okay guys, now that I got the AC installed, I have a vacuum pump right here. And what we're gonna do, I have the vacuum pump connected to my manifold gauges, and we have the low pressure here and the high pressure right there. Now what we're going to do is put it under vacuum, turn on the vacuum pump. Let me go ahead and do that. All right, Now, when I open this vacuum, we're going to see it suck down to negative 30 inches of mercury. Let me turn out the light. There we go. There we go. It is putting the system under vacuum. Now let me do this side too. All right, it is sucking that system down under vacuum. It's going to take a while, but eventually it'll get all the air out of there. See it slowly decreasing? And that says inches Hg vac, inches of mercury. That's how you measure vacuum. And we'll get down to like negative 28 or so. And then we'll close everything up and we'll let that sit. And by having the system under a vacuum, any moisture that got in there while I was doing the installation is going to evaporate out. Because, you know, from, I guess, high school chemistry, when you put water under a vacuum, it boils at a really low temperature. That's the idea. We're going to let that, and also when we shut it off, we're going to come back and, like, you know, tomorrow, we'll let it sit overnight under vacuum. And if the gauges are in the exact same place, it's still holding full vacuum, that means there's no leaks in the system. So we can see it's almost down to vacuum right now. See, it's getting down there like negative, you know, in between 20 and 30. So I'm going to let that run for a little while. We'll get any moisture out of there. Then we'll shut the system off and turn off the vacuum. All right, guys, while that vacuum pump is running, I want to prepare my oil injector. This is a graduated cylinder that you can unscrew, and it tells you, you know, ½ ounce, 1 ounce, 2 ounce, and we can fill it up. Remember, we were about 2½ ounces of oil removed from the compressor. So we want to fill this up and then inject it back into the system once we start recharging. So I'm going to screw this down to about 2½ ounces here. All right, there we go. And the oil I'm going to use is it's for R134. This stuff is good. Frigiquiet for R134 systems. It's made by like BG Products. And it already has the green dye in it, so we can test for any leaks with an ultraviolet light, with a UV light. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up our injector with the 2½ ounces, because we're going to put this back in the system. And this will lubricate our new compressor. All right, we'll just set this aside until we get to this stage. Let's go shut off the vacuum pump. Set that there. All right, the vacuum pump's been running for a while, and we see we are right down there at, like, it's always just shy of 30. That's where it ends up. So we're going to close off the system, or shut off the valves here. Good. And then cut off our vacuum pump. Now, this system is just sitting, right? You can see right where it is. It's like, you know, negative 28 or so, something like that. Now, we want to let this sit overnight, good 12, 14, 16 hours. We'll just let it sit all night and into the afternoon or mid-morning tomorrow. And then we'll come back and check this to see if it has leaked down any. Because if there's a leak, if something we did, like replacing the O-rings here on the compressor, if it's leaking, that vacuum will slowly fill back up with air and drop back down here to 0. All right, guys, with the magic of video editing, it is the next day. Let's check our vacuum. Okay, beautiful. See that? Remember, it was like at 28 or so, and it's been sitting under that charge. So we are good. We do not have any leaks in this system. All right, let's go ahead and start the recharging process. Okay, so I have 3 cans of just regular R134. There's no additives or anything. It's just straight R134A. And we've got our injector filled up. Now, on the front of the car, it will tell you, here's the original sticker. It says R12 maximum for the 123 chassis is 2.9 pounds. Now, with R134, when you recharge it, you want to use about 75% of the R12 maximum. So 2.9 pounds, 75% of that is, okay, I just did some basic math here. So 2.9 pounds at, it's 16 ounces per pound. So 2.9 times 16, that's 46.4 24 ounces. That's the R12 maximum. So if we take 75% of that, 46.4 times 0.75, that gives us 34.8 ounces maximum. So these three cans, there we go, 12 ounces. So 2 of them are 24 ounces and 3 of them are 36 ounces. So we basically want to use, now keep in mind, 34 is the max. So to get a nice working R134 system, use about 2 and a little over half of one of these cans. And guys, this isn't rocket science. You don't have to get it exactly correct. You can feel what half is by just, okay, it's full now. When it goes down to half, you can just feel it and kind of guesstimate, as long as you get it in the general area. So let's go ahead and start recharging the system. All right, I'm going to show you a trick, what I learned from one of my mentors, Stan, old school Mercedes mechanic. He would inject in his oil first, and see, I put an adapter fitting on here to connect to the R134. And since the system is under vacuum right now, he would go in here and disconnect this high pressure line right here. There we go. He would disconnect that and then connect up the oil to this high pressure and open it up, and the vacuum will suck in all that oil. And then we need to crank the car up and put the compressor on high, the AC on high, and put in our refrigerant through the low pressure port right here. But you definitely don't want to crank it when you're hooked up to the high pressure. It'll make this thing explode. But anyway, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, that's connected, and that system is under vacuum. And so this is easily, see how easily I'm pumping in this oil? It's because the system is actually sucking it in there. So we're going to go ahead and pump in our 2 ounces through our 2.5 ounces through our high pressure port. See how easy that goes in? Okay, we're done with the oil injection. Now, keep in mind, guys, there is still residual oil in the system because all we did is let out the old R134. The oil is still in there. So the only oil we're replacing is the oil in the compressor. If we had completely flushed out the system and put it, let's pretend the whole system is brand new, well, then you would have anywhere from 4 to 6 ounces of oil in there. But we still have some of that oil left in the system, so we're only putting back in the compressor oil. Okay, here's my first R134 can. I just have to screw that valve down to puncture it. And then once we, or to open it, once we do that, I'm going to purge any air out of this purge line here until we see R134 shoot out of here. And then I'll open our low pressure port and it'll start sucking it in there. First, we need to crank the car, put the AC on high. All right, the compressor just kicked on. Now we're starting to show readings. High pressure and low pressure side readings. All right, guys, so I got to go in and go ahead, get the rest of these cans in here. And it takes a little while to get all the refrigerant in, so I will be back in a minute, and we're going to put a thermometer in the vent on the inside of the car and measure the temperature. All right, guys, here's my thermometer. Let me see if you guys can see it. Let me turn out the light. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Okay, we can see it's like almost, oh, come on, focus. Well, it's almost 80 degrees in the shop. Now that green mark is 40 degrees. That's kind of what we want to get close to. So now R12 will get down to like, I don't know, 38 degrees, 36 degrees, usually around 38. R134 will usually get down to around 42 to 44 degrees. There's about a 5-degree difference between R12 and R134. But R134 cools absolutely fine. I live in Georgia, and I ran R134 in my classic diesel Mercedes for 12 years, and it cooled absolutely fine in 95-degree weather in Georgia. So let me go ahead and finish getting this in, and we'll go take a look at our temperatures. All right, we have one can down. Let's go ahead and get our next can in there. our next can is going in. Now, guys, to help with the evaporation, one of my old mentors taught me, just get a pot of warm tap water and put your can in here, because these cans get ice cold and they won't flow as well. But if it's in warm tap water, it encourages the evaporation of the R134 and it gets into the system a little quicker. All right, our pressures are reading good. We just need to wait till all these cans are in there. Okay guys, we almost have 2 cans in and we can already see we are down. We have already hit our mark. See, remember the green mark I told you about? We are already at 41 degrees. So 2 cans has already got this as exactly where we want it. So just to top off the system, I'm gonna go ahead, put in half of the other can, and then we're gonna be done. And I bet you, oh yeah, we're right there at 40 degrees. So this AC is now working outstanding. All right, guys, I am pretty good. Now check this, see that switch there? That's only on the 85 model. When you're under full throttle, that actually shuts off the compressor. See, it kicked on, now it's off. And that's activated by your that cam lobe right there. And that is working correctly. Off, on. All right, we are fully charged. All right guys, let's check our gauge here. Oh, look at that. We have hit 39 degrees. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're at 40. It was the angle of the camera. Yeah, that's about as cold as you're gonna get with R134. Like I said, R12 will sometimes get to like 38. I don't know, it looks like it's dropping to 39. Man, that is awesome. We have an ice cold AC system now. Mission accomplished. So that is it for the AC recharge and new compressor, receiver dryer, new switches. We are good. So let me just disconnect all this equipment and we are done with this video. Got the nice working AC, got the brand new engine mounts, put in the flexible transmission cooler hoses, and that is it. So stay tuned. There'll be a few more videos on this car. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Take care.